So we are going to drop into question 2. How can I thrive when my teammates are vocal about their achievements while I am reserved? I love this one. And it comes up so much. So, what's going on in our nervous system is a freeze response in this situation, right? We feel paralyzed or the words are stuck in our throat. But there are so many different reasons why we might get to that freeze response. I think that's what's really, really great about this question, why I was really excited to answer it. So, if you grew up in a household where there was like a strong sense of competition or there was a healthy debate over dinner every night, your tolerance, your emotional resilience, your tolerance for discomfort, for failure, right? If you're in a competitive environment or for people disagreeing, right? You're going to develop a really high emotional tolerance, a high emotional resilience for those kinds of discomforts that can be really, really rough on people who grew up in a house where everything's swept under the rug. Nothing to see here. Everything's fine, right? We don't ever have a disagreement. And therefore, we never build the resilience for a natural thing that's going to happen where people disagree. Or you grew up in a household where modesty and the power of the collective was so much more valued. And it was considered shameful or embarrassing for people to brag about themselves. Like, why would you put yourself out there? We're all in this together. Why would you try to stand out that way? And that can be embarrassing. And if you grew up with that as a value, then if you find yourself in a workplace where what a leader looks like or who gets the promotion or whatever are people who are going around doing this thing that you've never done and also have an actual visceral reaction to like how gross that looks when other people do it, then that's where the challenge and the disconnect is going to come in. And then you can bring in another layer of like boy groups and girl groups starting around the age of 4 or 5. So cooperate in boy groups around that age, there starts being an alpha and a hierarchy and a lot of competition for the alpha. So in boy social groups, very broadly speaking, this is a thing. This is why failure can sometimes seem like it has a greater impact on women. I think we did a couple weeks ago a question on this, right? About like, why does it seem like men can bounce back from things so quickly while I feel like I'm really like, it's weighing me down that I made this mistake, right? Or that I messed this thing up or that it didn't go the way that I wanted it to, right? But it makes sense that if you've spent a lifetime competing, that any kind of failure is going to seem a lot easier. So in girls' social groups, cooperation is valued over competition. Standing out and being competitive and trying to make yourself better than the other people around you, that's going to feel really uncomfortable, right? Or in girl social groups, humbleness is valued over confidence. So you want to stay humble, you want to be modest, right? And so if you've got that family thing layered on top of the female thing, like that is going to create a space where this feels profoundly uncomfortable, right? And what we want to do is there's this idea of here's your area of comfort, right? This is where we don't try new things. We don't, right? But we can stay really comfortable. We don't have to feel any discomfort. And then the area of discomfort that's around that, if we think of these as like concentric circles, right? This is where we want to be, that level of uncomfortability that gets us to the next thing that we do. But we don't want to go so far that we feel panic or we shut down or we feel like out of control and it makes us stop. Then we get into that freeze response, right? So we want to just push our comfort out a little bit. We want to get out of this safe zone where we don't get to grow, but we don't want to go so far that we panic or shut down. And so the tip that I'm going to give you towards the end is really going to help you build that emotional resilience that I've just been talking about a lot right now. Okay, what happens? What kind of things that we're feeling? We're feeling embarrassment and shame. We even feel embarrassment and shame on behalf of other people. If we grew up in a very, like where modesty was very valued, then when people are tooting their own horn, that can actually, we can feel embarrassed for them, right? This is really uncomfortable to watch you act so foolish, right? Or we feel insecure and isolated because we think we're the only ones that are having a problem finding and using our voice in that particular way. And then When we do that, we actually feel more shame because we think there's something wrong with us. And that's just simply not true. It's just that we haven't yet had the opportunity to build emotional resilience for that area, right? Of that area of discomfort beyond that middle safe spot, right? Before we get into the freeze response. So, of course, you have internal conflict about an increased mental load, right? You're being asked to behave in a way that feels in opposition to your values, possibly, or at least really uncomfortable based on your peer group and how you were raised. Of course, we detach in these moments because our mind's trying to keep us safe, and confidence and self promotion are dangerous. Think about just, I won't go into my whole thing on it, but I love to use the example. Think about a 13-year-old girl who says, I am so pretty at a slumber party with all of her girlfriends. Like, she's not saying the other girls aren't pretty. She's not saying she's prettier. She's just saying she's pretty. And everyone might agree in that moment, but you know what's going to happen to her down the line. And that's like trying to keep someone as part of the group and keep them safe with this. No, we want to keep you humble because humbleness is valued over confidence. And if you get overconfident, bad things will happen to you. And then, of course, we feel isolated on anything where it feels like something that's so hard for us comes so easily to other people. Of course, we're going to feel crappy in that situation. What happens when we stay in this? The ongoing stress of not wanting to go against our values while blaming ourselves instead of supporting ourselves, right? That's going to create a lot of ongoing stress where you're like, just say something, just say something in every single meeting. And you get out of the meeting, you're like, oh, you're so stupid. You didn't say anything again. Like, why are you so lame? Or we detach, we shut down. So we get so tired of thinking about it that we're just like, I'm never going to say anything. It's fine. I give up. And then what we're doing is we're depriving our colleagues of our contributions and being able to celebrate our accomplishments. So this is why we want to build that emotional resilience so that we can participate. Because what happens is when we think we can't find and use our voice is we prove that true by our actions. And that's the thing that we really want to interrupt. So the tips to try. So I highly recommend, and I do this with a lot of my clients, and some of them get really annoyed, but it's a dare of the day. So these are very low stakes things to low stakes. Hopefully that's how we'll see what AI the transcript does with that. These are low stakes things to do every day to build your emotional resilience. So this can be like asking a stranger for $1, giving someone just randomly on a busy sidewalk that you've never met an outrageous compliment, riding an elevator or escalator backwards, or doing something on public transportation that's just facing the opposite way, right? These are really low stakes things. If singing karaoke terrifies you, go do that. Things where your body will tell you that you're in danger, but you're not. And then you get on the other side and you're like, yes, I totally just asked for a free cup of coffee. They said no, but I did it. I did the thing. And these are the things that you want to do. This is how you get to catch up with the kids that were socialized that like competition and failure was just no big deal. This is where you get to catch up with the folks who grew up in a household where there was a lively debate every night or whatever it is. This is how you build that same amount of resilience so that when you get in the situations where the stakes are higher, you are more familiar with that discomfort, right? What we're doing is if this is the safe zone and this is discomfort zone, we're just building low stakes things so that we get to spend more time there and just get more used to it so that we understand that even though our brain is flooding our bodies with adrenaline and cortisol and that makes us think we are in like mortal peril, we actually aren't. So that was that one. All right.